YogiTriathlete just launched a brand new website. We have unrolled Squad. Squad is a virtual group coaching community like no other in the endurance sports space. We've got years of amazing content in there. Yoga for athletes, mobility classes, race course recons. We've got training plans from ultra marathons to Ironman, everything in between. We have a group coaching call every month. We have live streams, live classes, so much stuff in there, and a great community of people who are awake and ready. You will never have to train alone again with this virtual community. 7-day free trial. Get over there right now. Sign up for it. We'll see you in Squad. Namaste.
In the days leading up, and even as you're approaching race day with my athletes, if someone's not happy with where they're at, that just creates like a lot of disease and extra stress in the body. And I think as humans, like, we have to believe in the possibility and power of miracles, because they do happen. Like, you never know what's going to happen race day. Like, you really don't know. Your body could show up for you in ways that you've never seen before, and that happens.
Welcome back to the Yogi Triathlete podcast, where we delve into the heart of endurance, the power of the mind, and the strength of community. I'm Jess Gumkowski, your host, joined today by my co-host and master coach, BJ Gumkowski. And today we're wrapping up, like for real, we are wrapping up our Ironman Arizona First Timers series with a very special episode. We're sitting down with Melissa Gansz, Yogi Triathlete coach, clinical herbalist, and seasoned endurance athlete, to reflect on her stellar Ironman Arizona performance. Melissa didn't just race, she crushed the course, showcasing the strength and mindset that she cultivates in her own athletes. With the 6th fastest run in her age group and a near Kona qualification, Melissa's journey is nothing short of inspiring. But today's episode goes beyond race day. We're diving into how Melissa balances the dual role of coach and athlete, how her work with Yogi Triathlete influenced her preparation and performance, and what lessons she's bringing back to her athletes. Join us today as the three of us reflect on the power of coaching and how it shapes every step of the endurance journey. This is not just a celebration of Melissa's achievement, but an exploration of how the coach-athlete relationship can transform lives on and off the course. So you guys, Melissa, Beej, hello. Thanks for coming together for this Coaches Roundtable. Good to have you guys here. Yeah. So, I mean, you had a phenomenal race. You had an absolutely phenomenal race at IMAZ, 6th fastest run in your age group. Yeah. Can you just walk us through how your day unfolded from your mindset at the starting line to crossing the finish line? Just give us the cliff notes of what that day looked like for you.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people ask me, it's a natural question, like, what was the hardest part of the race? And every time somebody asks me, I have to really pause and like adjust my thoughts, because honestly, the race was not the issue. Like once I got in the water, like I was complete peace. Like I know how to swim, bike, and run. Like this is what I do. It's all that build up before the race. Like the week before, getting there, building my bike, like just controlling the mind the night before, the days leading up. Like to me, that's always, and especially for this race, was the biggest challenge. And I was texting my friend the night before, and she had said, Melissa, like once your face hits the water, like it's just total peace and flowing from there. And she was so right. Like as soon as I got in, I was just so joyful for everything I'd put in. There was like a lot of work to get there healthy and feel strong getting into that water. So it was not a big struggle day for me. Like I really had so much fun. My body felt really good. And I spent like a lot of the time out there just in total flow state. And it's what allowed me to start the run so strong. Like I had a couple of challenges on the bike, just like a little side stitch muscular issue that prevented me from hammering the bike. Like I still was able to ride strong, but I wasn't able to really push the bike. And there's always hidden blessings in everything. I got off the bike, and as soon as I was upright, I felt so good. I was like, let's go. So the entire marathon to me just really felt like a celebration. Like I was like, this is freaking awesome. Let's finish this thing. And that was the day.
What was the mind, where was the mind taking you the night before? Like it seems like you were in flow when you hit the race, but the night before, the day before, where was the mind taking you? Was it doubt, fear? Like where did your mind go and you had to pull back?
It wasn't doubt, because I know I'm trained for it and I knew finishing wasn't going to be an issue. It was my first time. Like I really didn't know how it was going to go. Like, and I had a plan, and you always think like, this is how I want it to go, but you don't know. Like you don't know how you'll feel waking up race morning. And I knew that it could be like a solid, pain-free, amazing day, or anything can happen. Like I could walk the marathon. I've never done an Ironman before. Like anything could fly. And I knew no matter what, I was going to finish. So it was just a matter of what I was being given the morning of and how I was going to navigate it. Like, was it going to be a battle, or was it just going to be me out there doing my thing?
How would you, or how do you kind of coach your athletes to be able to meet the day like that, like as you did? It doesn't mean that you're not going to have those kind of, I don't know, anticipatory thoughts, but how do you guide them to, show up and hit the water and then just let it be game day?
I just think everything that happens to us is for us. Like no matter what happens, we could use BJ as an example, like him getting injured and walking Kona and finishing in 1,000% authentic what he is about, like never standing down, ate his humble pie. Like I could have equally had the same day, and it would have been for me too. So I think like in the days leading up, and even as you're approaching race day with my athletes, if someone's not happy with where they're at, that just creates like a lot of dis-ease and extra stress in the body. And I think as humans, like we have to believe in the possibility and power of miracles, because they do happen. Like you never know what's going to happen race day. Like you really don't know. Your body could show up for you in ways that you've never seen before. And that happens. So I always try and reinforce that. And I always tell people to like mentally break it up in chunks if you need to. Like if you're really like struggling, having a breakdown on the run, when you start, commit to yourself. I'm going to run 2 minutes, walk 2, run 2, walk 2. And then you always feel like you do have a little bit of, I'll say like control in quotes, no matter what's going on, because you can make choices to adjust to anything.
Yeah, the key there is that you can make choices. Being a coach leading into this race, did that weigh into like how you prepared, how you recovered? Was there anything there of like, okay, I'm doing this for the first time, and I'm also a coach here. Was there any like pressure around like leading by example or tempering yourself when you need to temper yourself?
Yes, I would be lying if I said no. I went into it with big expectations, and I did sort of hit them, but I was doing the run. I think I was mile 16, and I ran into Jess. And my whole thought process, I ran into you, Jess. The whole thought process already, like what I was repeating in my head was like, build the last 10, build it like you're a coach. You have to, you got this. Like just, it was positive self-talk, but it was like rough. And then as if Jess read my mind, she comes swooping in to run with me. She's like, don't fuck this up. Like, this is marketing. Don't fuck this up. And she meant my nutrition. Like she said it out of love. Like, you're going to finish, just keep eating. But me, mentally, I was like, build the last 10. So when she said that, I was like, all right, I'm not fucking this up. Like, let's start bringing these miles down. And I did. Like, I mean, I'm very spiritual. Like I was something like to know about me at any 1 second, I could be saying Our Father and like praising God and Jesus. And then literally 10 seconds later, I could be absolutely raging in my head. So there was a lot of like that back and forth. But ultimately, like, that did fuel me. In the last 2 miles, Emma, who's also a first timer that did the event, she had an amazing swim and bike, and she was ahead of me the entire race. And the whole run, I was like, am I going to see Emma? And we met like so close to the finish line. And I went by her and I was like just screaming. I was like, let's fucking go. And she's like, yeah. Like she's like fist pumping. And I'm like, let's go. And then, yeah, I was just hammering at the last mile, like absolutely hammering. It was super fun.
Well, you only you have a very small window to get a message through to an athlete. So I just went like total direct route, but I was talking about your nutrition, but overall the message was for all of it, but it was just like to mess up your nutrition can be such a rookie move, like there's something where you're like, you got your nutrition going and you're being good about it. And then your belly gets upset. But like, if you just drop the ball on your nutrition, like that's just such a rookie move. And so that's really what I was saying. You did get it the way that I was actually saying it, was like, just stay on top of everything. 'Cause you were doing so well and you were running so strong, and yeah, like to see what we could eke out in those last 10 miles. You really showed up. And I also know that you would respond to something like that. That's the other, I know who I'm talking to. I would not say that to everyone, but I knew who I was talking to. And I think as a coach, I think that's super important.
Totally. Yeah. Fire to fire. It triggered me in a good way.
How do you feel? I'm looking at your pacing on the marathon specifically, and I don't see much more of a minute variance between your pacing. So I would say that you paced it pretty strong. But how do you feel about your pacing of your first marathon off an Ironman?
I think I paced it really well. The first 2 miles, I still had that muscular stitch, so I just didn't know what was going to happen. I thought maybe I'd be walking the marathon, to be honest, when I got off the bike. But I just kept myself calm and kept breathing. And I took those first 2 or 3 miles pretty slow. Like I feel like it was like a 9:30 pace. I don't know if it even shows that on the tracker, because sometimes
it does.
It does. Yeah. I was just being responsible. I was like, okay, I've had this before and I've worked through it before, like in 70.3 distances, almost all of them actually. So I was like, I know that I can breathe it off. And I was like, and this is an Ironman. Like I'm not hammering 13 miles. I'm milking 26. So even more opportunity to breathe through this stitch. And I was able to let go of it. And I didn't want it to come back. So the next 10, I just held like that 9-minute pace. I think I had some quick miles in there because I got really excited that the stitch was gone. And then the last half, I think it felt like I was going faster because everything just hurts at that point. Mm-hmm. And you're like picking it up. Again, I'm using quotes because you're pushing against so much more. So the pickup was there energy wise for me. The mile pacing was the same. But in hindsight, I think I could have pushed harder the second half. Hindsight's 2020. My first Ironman. Yeah.
I mean, you ran under 4 hours. You ran a 3:54. What do you think like a potential run for you is at Ironman? Like not the next one, but like, what do you think you could you run a 3:30 at an Ironman, you think?
Yeah, I could run a 3:30. I do think that. I've run a 3:30 before, just in regular marathon. It's 3:32, but I was sick. So I do think I could run a 3:30. I'd have to be really strong cycling, though. Like that can't deplete my legs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, in this buildup, Melissa, you talked, I think we had checked in, and I want to say in the, I don't know, let's just call it 6 to 8 weeks prior to the race, you were consistently sharing that you were finding rhythm and flow and a training routine that was building, in my mind, a confidence in what you were executing. So as a coach, what did you see as the benefit that you're going to bring to your athletes in terms of getting in those regimented workouts? And let's talk about 800s on the run. Like, you were slowly building them each week, keeping it a consistent workout, really not varying too much and going like, well, I need to do mile repeats and then 200 meter. You were sticking to like a similar session and building that each week to build confidence. What did you take away from that, and what are you going to implement moving forward?
A lot. I think it's so important for my athletes training for 70.3 for an Ironman to experiment with a schedule, like have a conversation with me and talk about, okay, this is what my entire week looks like. And the first thing I would ask is there a day besides Saturday and Sunday, because Ironman does require this, is there a day or two during your week where you have extra time, where we can double load workouts, get in a longer bike ride, get in a bike ride with a track session off the bike, like some 2-3 hour window days, and build a schedule around that. Keep it consistent. Like, you'll see the same thing week after week, but in the workouts, there's builds. So like an example, Tuesdays, I started out doing 20 by hundreds. And then by Ironman time, I was doing 30 of them. But that was, week after week building on top. And then same thing on Thursdays, I was doing a 3-hour ride with 800s off the bike. And I was starting, I think in August, I had only been doing like 6 800s. And then before the race, I made it all the way up to 14. And that was a freaking hard day, but they felt so good, and they felt like the secret sauce. I was like, I have to keep doing these. And I think it builds a lot of confidence, like building up and growing workouts like that, because they're hard, they take time, and they just prove to yourself over and over again that your body, when it's stretched, can do way more than you think it can.
Mm-hmm. And with those 800s, that's so good, Melissa. That's like consistency. It all comes back to consistency, consistently hitting it, but also not chasing a certain number, not chasing 20 800s or 24 800s. Every cycle is different, and every cycle is a build upon the next cycle and the next cycle and the next cycle. So you stay on this path, or with your athletes, like year after year, you get to like 18 800s or maybe 20 800s, but you're not forcing the number of reps. You're actually feeling into how they feel each week. And I think hope it's okay to share this, but I remember one week you were just like, you didn't do it, or you did like a super low number of them. Like, it just wasn't feeling like you were going to do them, or you pushed it off a day. Maybe that's what it was, but you were listening to what feedback your body was sharing with you.
Yeah, I remember this day. It was like a week that it felt like all my training was just not being absorbed. I was so tired. Like, everyone training for an Ironman will have a week like this. Like, if you don't, you're probably not training hard enough, or you're superhuman. But I had a Thursday, and I was supposed to hit 12 800s off the bike. And I tried one of them. And immediately I was like, no freaking way. So I just did 8 by 3 minutes at, we'll call it like a tempo pace, like not my 800 pace, just something that was going to mimic turnover in my legs off a long ride. That's what I was trying to get after. Quick turnover on tired legs. And a little bit of bringing the heart rate up, and then ability to bring it back down and keep going. Yeah.
Share with us, for this Ironman build, how you were using herbal support, specifically like in taper and for recovery from this Ironman.
More than I ever have. So during my actual training, I was doing a few things. I was taking ashwagandha before bed every night, which promotes recovery, balances the nervous system, and helps us sleep through the night. So it doesn't help you fall asleep, but it helps you sleep through the night. I was also doing like a double ashwagandha, drinking these moon milk lattes, which I think I talked about in the last podcast, but you take turmeric, ashwagandha, a little bit of nutmeg. I do oat milk, and I just heat it up and take like a milk frother to it, and I drink that. And that for recovery, obviously the turmeric is amazing for inflammation. And I was drinking that after most of my workouts. So that felt like super nutritive for my body and nervous system supporting. And then on top of it, I was playing around with some different adaptogens. Cordyceps is one of them. There's actually studies, like if you read up on cordyceps, about oxygen uptake and them enhancing VO2 max, building more mitochondria in the body, like just some crazy stuff that's couldn't be more perfect for Ironman training. So I was experimenting with cordyceps, and the last one was rhodiola root, which is another adaptogen that's super stimulating. So I didn't take it all the time, but if I had a super long ride, like on a Saturday morning, I would take some rhodiola. And I could tell like my perceived exertion was lower just from taking that herb. So it was a fun time to experiment and see what worked, how it felt. Yeah.
What's one herb that you would now, on the other side of this, would add into your routine that you think would be beneficial for either performance or recovery during an Ironman build?
You know what I would add, and was taking a while before Ironman, but kind of fell off of it. It's kind of more like a wintry herb that I take in is dandelion root, just because of iron absorption, and it's super liver supportive. So the reason behind that, during Ironman training, we are flooded with inflammation. Like if you take anyone's, I would assume, as they're in an Ironman build, if you take their blood and look at their inflammation markers, like it is naturally going to be much higher than other times of the year. And a way for the body to fight off some of that inflammation is to remove toxins from the body with the liver. So dandelion highly supports the liver, and it has iron in it. So the trick there, as endurance athletes, we already need extra iron because we almost always just aren't getting in enough calories no matter how much we eat. It's really tough. So that's reason number one. And then when we work out, I'm going to get a little biology here, but there's a hormone called hepcidin, and when it is released, inhibits iron absorption. So high intensity workouts, so like the 800s off the bike, 100s in the pool, VO2 max sessions, all that stuff, more hepcidin is released in the body, which inhibits the iron absorption in your blood. So I always say, like, if you're not making an effort to get an extra iron, definitely start.
Anything that's super helpful. Thank you. I love all that information around it. Anything that you did double down on for recovery, or did you just continue what you were doing leading into the race?
Leading into the race, I just continued, and I was taking more cordyceps leading in. I think started twice a day instead of the once a day, just like 2 weeks before. But that was really the only difference.
And then you just carried that through your recovery?
Yeah, like I'm still taking it now. I'm finishing up the bottle, and I'm 3 weeks out. And then when I'm done with it, I'll stop taking it for a little while. And yeah, it's good to reintroduce it in the body later.
Do you feel like the cordyceps has helped you with the like post Ironman fatigue, or what's the point of the cordyceps? What's it doing for you in recovery?
Yeah, fatigue and the other parts immunity. So we always get sick after we race. Like our immune system is just shot. And I wanted to give myself the best shot. So take an extra cordyceps afterwards.
And how is the body feeling? You know, let's talk about recovery. How are you feeling after what we're 3 weeks? Are we 3 weeks out? Yeah, probably 3 weeks out. What's your status now?
I feel good now. It took a while. And I wouldn't say I'm 100% by any means. My body's really interesting. I found I really don't get fatigue until like a week later. Like the day after, I felt pretty good. Even 2 days after, I was like, wow, like I'm fine. Like I'm so wrong. But then I remember I was on the way home from the airport, which was Wednesday after the race. And my dad and my stepmom picked me up. It was so nice of them to just pick me up on a whim. And I like hop into the car. I'm all like perky. They're like, you have lots of energy. I was like, yeah. I was like, you know what? Like I'm in such good shape that Ironman didn't even wipe me out. Like I would just go back and like punch myself in the face in the back seat right now. If I could. Because that weekend, like that Saturday morning, a whole week after, I was literally on my deathbed. I was like, okay, well, the fatigue has arrived. So from there, honestly, it's been a lot of self-control to stop running because I love to run and I'm in a community of friends that are actually training for an ultra. So I just like get constant pokes left and right to join them for their trail runs and 20-mile loopy runs. And I'm like, guys, I only can jump in for one of these little loops. Like, I gotta be responsible because I know how important it is for the next race and letting myself rest. It's been a while since I rested.
But you've already got another Ironman on the horizon. Tell us what you're doing.
Placid, July 20th. I need a challenging bike course. I need to get away from the flats, or so I believe. And Arizona was amazing, but I need some views and mountains, and I need to like breathe in the ferns and need a little more nature on my side than Arizona had to offer.
You're going to love that course.
It's probably the most scenic, probably the most challenging course on the U.S. circuit right now as well.
So right now we have, including Melissa, 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Yeah. So, if you're looking to do Placid, come join the crew, coach with Melissa. Then you can race right next to her or try and pass her and be in front of her and see her fire get lit up. But yeah, you've got room on your roster to take on some athletes to get them to their finish lines.
Definitely. Yeah. I would love to have some more people in Placid.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
I think that, I think we were talking before, but, from our perspective, and I want to get yours, Melissa, but being in that community in Arizona, having so many first timers, but even just the coaches were there, spectators, like people flew in to come in and be a part of it. Like that whole energy of the days leading in and then the day after was just, I don't know. That's my jam. That really lit me up. I don't know. What was your perspective on that whole community experience?
Yeah, it lit me up too. It was super comforting to know that we were all facing this thing together. And I just feel like we had the best group. Like what a strong, amazing group of people. Like I feel like everybody was mentally going into it like so stable, and everyone had such self-belief because we'd all worked really hard and had sacrificed a lot to be there. And like I said before, like I think when you train the mind and do the inner work, like the physical challenge of the Ironman doesn't have as much rule over you. And I do know and believe that the athletes on this team embody that.
Yeah. I think it's just embedded in the languaging that we use in the workouts that you guys dish out and describe. It's all about getting that mindset constantly trained, right? And then some of the athletes on top of it will have like a pretty, dedicated morning meditation practice or breathwork practice. Some of them struggle with the consistency of it, but just having that thread of mindset as a foundation of everything that we do here. Like it just, you can't be on this team and not have the effect of that, especially in a community like you just experienced with these 4 other athletes, and being with them on race morning and everybody knowing that they can go to their breath to get themselves calm, right? Like everybody's just using their tools, and to have that's a really strong environment that you're going to benefit from if you're in that community and in that environment. And I saw all of you guys. We had an idea of what was going to happen when we brought you all together, but to watch it is always such a delight. And I think my favorite moment was Friday morning when we all met, and I think everybody was in town at that point, and we all met, and just watching, I just kind of stood back and I just watched you all like hug each other and greet each other, and immediately just like pick up where you left off, like you were old friends, but you were meeting for the first time. Most everyone you were meeting for the first time. It was really cool to see that influence of YogiTriathlete, how that community came together, and then how everybody's mindset was leading in and on race day was so impressive. So impressive.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you're looking for that next race experience, you're, maybe on the East Coast and Placid has been tugging at your heart, like take action on that. Melissa is going to be leading, the day's activities, swimming in the lake, that beautiful, wonderful lake, doing some recon. What?
If you can hold off on the jealousy, you won't be there. But I wouldn't be surprised if BJ popped up in Mirror Lake,
hang out and swim in the lake.
People go to Vegas for like weekends of no sleep. You go to Ironman. You go to Ironman. He comes back like.
Strung out.
Yeah, totally strung out. Espresso.
But this community that we're talking about, you can experience that the next one in Placid, and Melissa will be there. There'll be a few athletes as of right now, but join the team, join the squad, coach with Melissa, go to Placid, have an experience, be in community, be supported, have the tools in your toolbox to navigate the challenging moments, and have a day that Melissa just described where you found flow and you realized that you had control over each moment. Like you had a decision that you could make, which was in your own hands. You weren't handing it over to something outside of you. And that's really the value of moving and shifting awareness away from whatever's challenging you onto your breath or something that brings you into a state of calm. So Placid is, obviously it's my favorite course out there. And I'm so excited to see you get out and be on a course where you're truly going to be probably doing some primal screams like Jess was in Arizona.
Oh yeah, you can primal scream out there.
Except
absolutely,
mine is not primal screaming; it's feral screaming.
Yeah, you're feral.
Jess is the primal.
I'm not as feral as you are. That's right. You do feral screaming. All right. So I mentioned this in the intro that you came really close to a Kona qualification. Does that inform your goals for the future? Knowing, realizing that your first Ironman, you came so close.
Yes, it's part of the reason I signed up so quickly afterwards. I was like, damn. I guess I didn't say this yet, but I could have raced way harder. I think if I didn't have that side stitch riding, I could have easily shaved 20 minutes off my bike, and that would have been it. I would have been going to Kona. And thinking about that and knowing that, I know what my training rides look like, and I know the watts I was hitting, and I wasn't hitting them on the race. So I was happy that I had a really good day and was able to crush the run. But I know that I have it in me to get to Kona, and it feels close. It feels like it could happen in the next year. So I feel like I had no choice but to sign up. I was like, all right, let's do this thing again.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome.
Dial it
in. What's a valuable piece of advice that you'd share with first-time Ironman athletes?
So many things. First one is obvious. Keep eating. Practice your eating during training.
Don't mess that one up.
Don't mess that up, or you will fail, no matter how fit you are. second one, especially for your first one, it's so important to enjoy the experience. If you don't, you're not going to do another one. And there are a few people that can qualify, for Worlds, their first Ironman, but don't make that the reason you start. Like that's not why. I mean, yes, I want to get to Kona, but that's not why I do the races. And that's not why most of my athletes do their races. I think everyone just wants to see something in themselves they've never seen before and just keep flipping into higher depths and self-belief and self-discipline. And this is so cliche, but like the race is such a small portion of what it takes to be an Ironman. Like the training's 95% and the race is 5%. So just enjoy the whole process. Like don't wish it away. Enjoy your training. Even if you're having a bad day, like tomorrow's another one. And just appreciate where you're at always.
When you did run down the red carpet there to the finish line, one, how were you feeling that the journey had been completed? And two, did you hear you are an Ironman from the announcer?
So I'm not going to lie. I thought I was going to have this crazy, like crying spiritual experience as I was running down the red carpet. And I was so overjoyed to be finished and to hear that you are an Ironman. But it felt like I was just getting started. Like that's how I felt. Like I finished up and I was like, uh-oh. I was like, I think that this is my distance. And that was just the start of this whole freaking thing. Like my mom was like hugging me. Like I was just acting completely normal. She's like, you're not even acting like you just raced. I was like, yeah. I was like, this is so much more than the race is going on in my head right now. So, I was kind of like digesting that towards the end of the run and while I was finishing, like what's coming next here.
It's like there was, I don't know, like a door blew open and all of a sudden you saw this whole other path that you were like, oh shit, I'm suited for this. Okay. Like what's this? And then you had that realization. That's pretty cool.
It was. Yeah. And I know I'm suited for it because of mentally how I felt in that race. I was I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was not what I thought it was going to be in my mind. Like I just having a day, just an extra long training day, and was really joyful. So I could do that again.
Speaking of the mental game, I'm going to throw this question first over to you, BJ, and I want you to answer it to Melissa. Is like, as coaches, how do you guide athletes through those, like when they come up against those emotional or mental limits that, like Melissa just said, because of the mind she has, she knows she's so set for this longer distance stuff, which, can really be crippling for those who are struggling with mental or emotional management. How do you help them through, whether they're having a breaking point in their training, in their profession, because it always goes beyond swim, bike, run. How do you guide them?
Yeah, usually what first comes to mind is there's this spiral happening. There's this momentum going into doubt or fear or fatigue or whatever it is. And I always will respond to them. If I get a text or a message like that, it's like, stop, interrupt what's happening. Go for a walk, take a breath, get off the bike, go, walk your dog or do something to interrupt that energy that's moving into the direction of feeding doubt and fear, is most often what it is. So, that's step number one. You got to interrupt that process. And then two is to come back with a renewed perspective and a renewed shift. And maybe you don't get back on the bike. Maybe you don't train for the day, but you rest, regroup, and come back the next day and start again. So there's a reset that's happening, because you don't want to stop totally. You don't want to say, I'm going to take 7 days off and not going to do this. To me, that's lingering too much in the opposite. I feel like movement and momentum is gold. I feel like that really helps to build what we talked about earlier was with consistency. So if the person if they're physically capable of doing the sessions, it's really just the mental aspect gets so like, it just wedges its way in there so much. The story that's going on in the mind, and you just have to interrupt the story because the story will continue to build as you give it attention, and it'll continue to build and build and build. What we need to do is we need to stop it right there. And sometimes something that you say quite often, Jess, is like, what's the truth of this situation right now? Like, what is the truth? You really can't hit the watts that you're trying to hit. Okay, that could be true, but that is not true forever. It's just this moment. It doesn't feel good. Step away and come back. So yeah, I really feed that interruption because I can see it most often in the discussion the chat that we're having or the text chain that we're having. It's like going in a direction we need to stop. You need to pump the brakes and interrupt that thought pattern.
Yeah, I know exactly when you're saying, I can't remember the words you used when you first started to answer that question. But like, yeah, you can feel like this spiral. And where I'm working, my athletes we're just talking about mindset. So it's like, we're going in and sometimes they'll come and they're just like, they are so wound into a spiral. I've had to literally like raise my voice and be like, stop, because we don't understand the power of our words. And when we're in this spiral and it's just getting tighter and they're falling and it's getting tighter and they're falling and it's negative and it's dark, it's like, oh my God, we're like every single word we're in deeper and we're going to have to, not me, I can guide them and watch them, but like they're going to have to climb back out of that cavern that they're putting themselves in because there's a lack of emotional control. And there's a lack of thought control. And we all fall into it. I mean, I do too sometimes. It's few and far between. But yeah, where you just feel almost like powerless. But you have to take that break. You have to stop and get yourself calm. And then you have to have the desire. You have to have the desire in order for this to work, to see it another way. If you don't have the desire, it's not going to work. And I can't give you that desire. They have to want it. And then they have to want it, and then they have to do it. And that can be hard in the face of like a really deep groove of a pattern or a cycle in life.
Yeah. I'll add one more thing. The finding calm. You just mentioned that, like somehow find calm. Somehow. It's not as easy as just saying like, oh, okay, now I'm calm. You have to have a tool that we all provide our athletes and community to use to find some way to find calm, whatever that is.
Yeah. What about you, Melissa? Like, just, like I said, it's always more than swim, bike, run. But, as athletes, we can endure a lot. So we can really get ourselves like overworked, in our profession. We can just get into like our whole life is a grind, including the training, which is, supposed to be our outlet. But what are kind of the words or the conversations that you feel like you are having when athletes are kind of hitting those breaking points in any facet of their life?
One thing I keep thinking about is how you can see when people are having these spirals and they're experiencing complete lack of emotional regulation. Like that's what spiraling is. And I'm just thinking to myself, like in my own personal journey and then athletes I've worked with for years, when we encounter these spirals and can pause and stop and shift our energy and really process like where they're originating from. When they happen again, they're not quite going to be as deep. Like you'll find that you're able to reel yourself back in much easier, and it cascades into everything else. Like just a small example, like feeling overwhelmed, let's call it like at the airport. Like you can most easily be having a spiral about a delay, traveling with a child. Just that's a scenario of life where you are at the airport's mercy. Like, and it's up to you to choose how you're going to respond. And I think being an endurance athlete and practicing that regulation is such a gift. So I wanted to first start out by saying that because it's really cool. And then what I do with my athletes, I do the same thing. I tell them to stop because it's so important to recenter and, like I said, change the energy around the situation. And I will literally drag into their plan like any type of movement for 30 minutes that you enjoy. That could be yoga, hiking, dancing in your kitchen, whatever the heck it is that you enjoy that somehow falls in line with also being consistent in movement. I think a couple of days of that can really be a game changer. And then I think another big part of it is rewriting your why. Like, why did you start this? Because I think we start really with a mission and a purpose. And then when the details come in and start to derail us, we forget why we started. So just come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so good, Melissa. I feel like I think a lot of people can relate to that aspect right there of, and especially this time of year, everybody's coming up with their goals and their resolutions and, things that they want to really get after this year. And then it's like, boom, a week or two, super strong. Like there is no stopping you. But then stuff starts to happen. The mind starts to expand upon the doubt and the fear or the patterns that you've practiced in the past or the energy of the environment. And then you slowly start to lose that momentum. Only until the point where it's like, well, I'll just start next year.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I said that purposely so Jess could
have a reaction.
Yes.
I'm having a reaction also.
I have to take my sweatshirt off. I'm like hot now.
It's getting hot.
The fire just got triggered. I think it would benefit all of us to reframe doubt for what it truly is, which is a mind virus. And it will infiltrate your dreams, and it will infiltrate your focus, and it will infiltrate your discipline, and it will infiltrate your power if we give it airtime. Like, we have to nullify doubt. It is a mind virus. I talked about this last night. We did a whole week on self-belief and confidence in the mindset course that I'm running. And I talked about doubt, and we have to be aware to see when we're entertaining it and then question it. Like a really simple question, is this true? How do I absolutely know this is true? How do I react when I think this thought, and who am I without it? Like, that's Byron Katie, 4 questions. That shit will change your life if you're willing to just ask those questions about these things. And then what happens is we butt up against this like fear of success. It's like, who are we without the struggle? Who are we without the doubt? Who are we without the drama? We're somebody who succeeds. We're somebody who steps into their dreams with more ease. And that is a very strange feeling to have in a society that says we are not enough. So it's a very, very tricky process, but we have to give some weight to doubt, because that is what's derailing so many things for us. And it's coming because we are giving it airtime. We're expanding doubt in our life.
And introducing it when it's not.
We're giving ourselves reasons through the evidence of now to doubt what we want or what we're going after or our ability. And so, if we're not nullifying doubt, then, self-belief and confidence that's just going to be a hard, long journey. Because this is the thing, who you are is not doubt. Who you truly are is not doubt. You are all knowing. So it's all about becoming that archaeologist of self, which I just kept hammering during that session last night. It's just like, if we're not willing to go under the surface and really see who we are underneath the roles that we play and how we move through the world, like that confidence is just, and self-belief is just a byproduct of training your mind. It's like we're not adding anything. We're just chipping away at the doubt and the negativity or the less than thoughts. We're chipping away at that and letting those fall away. And then, what comes out is who we always were. Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't done that deep dive discovery, or what Melissa was talking about, going back to your why, like, and write it down. You just showed us a sticky, like put it on a sticky, put it on a mirror, put it in some place that you'll constantly see it, because that is your North Star. That's going to rise above anything. That's going to be the thing that you cling to when doubt does get introduced. You can quickly nullify it and move to your why, to your goal, to your dreams, to your love, whatever that is.
So I'm holding up my pen right now, and I have all these pieces of paper on the wall next to my bike trainer. And those are 6 things that help me nullify doubt. So what you just said, having that in your vision is so important. And there was plenty of moments where I was hitting intervals and I had to stare at those papers to make it through the next one.
Yeah.
And that is one.
I love it. What?
That is one other thing I do with athletes too. When you pick up that sense of they're going off a little bit, write this down. I will get up in the morning. I will get up today. Be up. Let nothing stand in my way. I am enough. Whatever it is, write it down. It's so easy to talk about it, and then it disappears. Like it's not compelling enough. But yeah, I mean, you're calling yourself out with putting them right there in front of the trainer. There's no escaping from what you're actually looking at. Then you purposely need to make a decision to derail yourself because you haven't given yourself an out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ease isn't juicy, right? And the mind, the ego craves juicy things, like juicy drama. And so it's almost like it's boring, but it's just a different way of living that opens up different doors. And yeah, if you're not familiar with it, then how can we say it's boring? You got to live it. Yeah, good stuff. All right. Anything else before we wrap it up? Melissa, any final words about your journey to Ironman as a very important part of YogiTriathlete?
If it's on your heart, you must. Like I've been telling a lot of people that lately. Even I was at a cycling class last night, and some guy, I think he was probably 20 years old, was asking me about my Ironman. And I was like, do you want to do one? He's like, oh, that seems crazy. I was like, but it seems like you're interested. He's like, you must. I was like, you'll get there. I was like, just keep believing it and believe in miracles and believe in yourself, and you can make it happen. And I thought the guy was going to like cry. He was like, thank you. But it's true. You must, you have to.
You must, and you have to. Yeah. And logistics are not always going to look like that they're going to support what it is that you're going after. And sometimes you just have to go with your vision and let the logistics fall into place for you, even if you have to get creative. But don't let just logistics dictate what you are and are not capable of doing. Because the logistics of now is just results of the past. They're not the predictor of the future at all. So, all right, let's wrap it up.
Placid.
Cool.
All sites set on Placid.
Woo! And BJ, your sites are set on...
Oh, Arizona. What?
That sounds kind of vanilla.
Winning my age group in Arizona. I have to PR by 30 minutes to do it. But again, let's feed. I believe that to be true. I believe that's going to happen. I have to go after it. Same thing. You're going after Placid, a race course you've never done before. You'll be your second Ironman, but you have to believe. Otherwise, what are we here for? What are we here for?
Yeah, if I'm not going to believe, why would I start the damn thing? You got to believe.
God, seriously, that would be the worst. Starting a huge journey like that and not believing. Yeah, all right, well, that's fantasy. All right. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. Melissa, thanks for sharing about your race. You're amazing, amazing athlete, amazing coach. Can't wait to see what manifests from here.
I'm excited for this year, guys. It's going to be great.